Check out this 1973 Jeep cj5. I found this rotting green pile at this junkyard you pull and save right down the street from my house. Here's the exact spot where I found it when I bought it. Someone had already swapped in a Chevy 350 with vortec heads, a brand new 750 Edelbrock carb, and it had an entire MSD setup. So, here we go. Let's check this thing out.
Okay. So, what do we do today? Well, if you or me, you went to a junkyard and bought this Jeep cj5 1973, already got a Chevy 350 in it. We took it to the side of the road and got the goddamn thing running. What are we gonna do now? We're gonna get this piece of crap home. Oh, let's show you the rat turds. So, the rat turds were free. I did not have to pay extra for those. And look at this, old person walker for a seat mount. So, I'm assuming some old lady got mugged in an old folks home and they took her cane to make this seat. Now, if you're gonna be RVing, you got your sewer, open header, sewer clean out, leaded pipe for exhaust, flush out cap. And what do we got? We got MSD ignition, we got ram horn exhaust, we got center bolt heads, we got aluminum intake. It already had this carb on it. 60 pounds of oil pressure at idle. Look here. Junkyard, 1973, been sitting for 2 weeks.
Always have your spare tires strapped down and have your coffee in your hand. That stuff's going to go flying when you mash the gas pedal, as you're going to see here.
And for a headrest, we got brand new BFG 311050s, 4 with wheels for $100 since I bought the Jeep.
At about this time, that spare tire on the left decides to roll its way to freedom. I took it easy after that.
Okay, this is the first test drive after deturning this thing and getting it on the road. Let's see. Traffic go by. Here we go. What do you think? Pretty good?
Yeah. It's not as scary as the other one.
It's got good brakes. The brakes are awesome.
It's not as scary as the other one. I think because the handle's better.
Surprisingly, it doesn't, yeah.
It's so squirrely because of
The frame's not bad.
I was waiting just to see what was wrong with this thing. I thought for sure we were going to have brake issues. I thought maybe the alignment might be bad and we're wobbling all over the road. Or maybe the synchros went out on the tranny and was grinding really bad in between gears or popping out of gear. But to my surprise, this thing drove straight as an arrow, stopped on a dime, and shifted super smooth. I was really surprised there was nothing really wrong with this thing yet.
Look, it's just cruising. Look at that.
Yeah.
It drives perfect. No shaking or anything. Turn signals work. Headlights work.
So after we road tested this pile, we found out, well, it was somewhat mechanically safe. So we started testing out the 4-wheel drive, the 4 high, the 4 low, seeing if anything pops out of gear there, and then this happened.
Really stuck.
They are stuck.
We're stuck.
No.
And then this happened.
Yeah.
So we drove the thing to my house. We knew the electrical system was an absolute nightmare and the radiator hoses were really funky. So what did we do? We put a used Detroit locker in it from Craigslist instead and hit the 4-wheel drive Charlotte Gap Trail.
Yeah, we're at the Charlotte Gap 4 Drive Trail in a Jeep against my better judgment. I've given up wheeling for 3 years. The last time we were here, we were in the yellow Jeep. We had a Chevy 305 in it. That was a cj5. We had problems with the yellow Jeep and I lost my mind and we sold it. And 3 years later, what am I doing with this thing? Found this one at a junkyard for almost nothing. It already had a V8 in it. And so here we are, beginning the vicious cycle of breaking parts all over again. So this thing was an electrical nightmare when I bought it. There's enough wiring in this for 5 Jeeps. What I'm worrying about is there's so much wiring hanging under the dash and around the pedals. If I operate the pedals a lot, I'm worried about rubbing the insulation off the wires and having an arc. That's one projection of doom. The other thing, I don't know if you can see it with this camera, but this is very, very tasty modification here. Let's see. Can you see it underneath? Yeah. So check this out. So this is the crossover for the radiator because it's a Chevy V8 with Jeep radiator, which puts the spouts on the wrong side. So we have a metal pipe, cast iron metal pipe, hose clamped to the frame with a rubber grommet so it doesn't rub to get to the bottom line of the radiator. Isn't that an awesome modification? And then we have the redneck power steering, which we have springs going to nothing. Yeah, so that works out really well. And we got a manual steering box. Anyway, so hopefully we won't break a radiator hose rubbing on the frame and not get covered in cherry cactus.
There's the gap.
Full report soon. Oh, and the gap, if you look right there, that V trail goes right down the center of that V and down the other side into a city 50 miles that way. Well, 30 miles that way. And so that's what the gap is. It's that little dip right there. So when people talk about the Charlotte Gap, it's right there. All right, well, let's break parts and see what happens. Okay. So this is the first major obstacle at the gap. I don't know if you can call it major, but it's the first noticeable obstacle. So the Jeep's doing pretty good so far. The carburetor is working awesome. It's got a quadrijet. Brakes are working great. Everything, we're running at 170. Got 50 pounds of oil pressure. Idle. Let's see if we can climb this hill with no throttle. I was expecting worse. Well, we'll probably have to use a little throttle since we have no low gears. Straddle the rut. We're just barely above idle. Not even spinning a tire. Wow. So I put an Auburn locker in the rear. That's really helping. Alright, here we go. Nasty obstacle. I can see it on the cat. Okay. We're idling up this. This is nothing. So that used Detroit locker we put in, man, that made a world of a difference. Even with super high gears, this thing could crawl up steep hills at idle. That was a really good investment. More. I see it. That's fine. Oh, that was nothing. Gosh, I was hoping it was worse.
Yeah, for you, that's like super easy. It's like the easiest thing ever.
Alright, so here's the second
going. This is where we go down the huge hill. We're gonna really go slow and be careful. Nice little rut. Good. It would help if we had some lower gears. Oh, this is nothing. Going downhill in this thing, I noticed I had to cover the brakes the entire time. The T15 3-speed that was in it was just way too high geared for going down these steep downhill grades. A Granny 4-speed would have been way better, but that's what it came with from the Junkyard, and that's what we're gonna run.
I thought for sure we were going to have all kinds of trouble with this thing. I thought a wheel cylinder was going to blow out and we were going to lose all our brakes. I thought wires under the dash were going to arc together and melt my MSD setup. I thought the radiator hose that was strapped against the frame was going to rub and start leaking all over the place and we were going to overheat, or the thermostat was going to get stuck. But none of that happened. The thing just kept going and going with zero problems. All we did, we put a used Quadrajet carb on this thing. We drove to Phoenix and got a used Detroit locker, and that's all we did to this thing, and went straight to the trail and had zero issues. Well, what did John learn today here on this adventure? Well, do things on a budget. Get a number in your head. Say, I got $1,500 to spend on a Jeep. That's about what I did. Check every 3 hours. Check Facebook, check Junkyard, check Craigslist. Every day, every couple of hours. Keep looking, and think in your head, I'm looking for a Jeep for $1,500. Jeep for $1,500. I guarantee you, within 2 weeks, within 3 weeks, within a month, you will find one. They're out there. So guys, don't be afraid to build your entire Jeep out of 30-year-old used parts. There's a lot of life left in those rusty old parts. Save some money. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and we'll see you on the next adventure of Junkyard Jeep where we break more parts.